Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. The planted seed has won. He has fallen from the tree of the Father's making and crushed the head of the serpent, taking all the Father's children back as his own. He grew as a tender shoot, the root of a dead stump. And as he died, that stump came alive and thrived as it bore a new kind of fruit, a strange fruit. One that would uproot the very fabric of life itself, for death had turned to life and sorrow to rejoicing. Destruction brought resurrection, and out of darkness came morning. The peace that was promised through David's throne had become known and thrown off the yoke of man's own creation, causing a cessation of man's attempts at self-validation, ending the fruitless deliberation of our self-salvation. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. The three agreed plan succeeded as he fulfilled his role perfectly, living out the elements of a true duality. For the plan would only be executed in its totality as the suffering servant's mortality intertwined with the reality of the conquering king's victory. Son of God and Son of Man. The perfection of his plan was revealed in that he became human so as to welcome death in. And then, when he had death entrapped in his side, stuck in his crusted blood that had dried, he swallowed it up and let out the victory cry. So now, as his divinely human heart beats alive and strong, he acts as a heart transplant for those who didn't belong, smashing to bits our hearts of stone and replacing them with his pulsing red own, replacing paper and ink with flesh and artery so that God's very word would be our heart surgery. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. The Lamb has freed us from our helpless wandering in the desert where we're enslaved by an insatiable wanting. In playing a little game of follow the Lamb leader, he led us by water and greener pasture to the true feast that would finally satisfy our hunger. For he had a picnic surprise waiting in the end. It was a cup of his blood and his body as bread. But after 3 days, he had one more surprise. That bread and that wine were fully alive, living and giving life as a gift, a kingdom feast that would never again end. He paved the way as the divine representation, fulfilled the truth as the living word translation, and resurrected life as death's final desolation. The silent Lamb stood tall and let out a lion's roar, for he had conquered all. On his back he carried the totality of our depravity, and even this burden of the foulest of idolatry held no final gravity in comparison to his majesty. So weep no more, my dear friends. Death could not keep him, and the seals have been broken. The scroll has been opened, and that heavenly praise spoken. To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be blessing and honor and glory and might forever and ever. And that lion lamb's glory is your beauty cover.